While running for president of the United States, Republican candidate Donald Trump was a vocal critic of the country's economic relations with Europe. From the Iran nuclear deal to trade to NATO spending, there was a raft of treaty issues where Trump and the European leaders diverged. Although Trump toned down his blistering criticism of Europe after taking charge of the White House, his protectionist trade strategy has been a matter of concern for his European counterparts. President Trump shocked the U.S. European allies last month by his controversial tariffs on aluminum and steel products, which will take effect on May 1st. During a one-day White House visit, German Chancellor Angela Merkel pushed for an exemption of European exports, but apparently to no avail.
The President will decide, that's very clear. We had an exchange of views on the current state of affairs of the negotiations and the respective assessments on where we stand on this, and the decision lies with the President.
The new tariffs could put the United States' trading partners in Europe squarely in the firing line, as those countries may respond with trade actions of their own.
The problem really here in terms of the relationship between these EU leaders, Macron and Merkel and Donald Trump is the fact that Donald Trump is not the standard or the average or the normal Washington insider president of America. He is effectively an outsider, and from the beginning of his campaign to be president and since he's been president, he has made it clear that his priority is to improve the American economy, do what's best for the American economy.
Just a week before his January 20th inauguration, Donald Trump described NATO as an obsolete organization. Such comments provoked a reaction from European Union officials, with European Council President Donald Tusk calling Trump a threat to Europe. NATO defense spending was another issue discussed during the German Chancellor's U.S. visit, where Trump renewed his criticism of the Western military alliance.
We have a far greater burden than we should have. Other countries should be paying more. And I'm not saying Germany alone. Other countries should be paying more. I mean, we're protecting Europe, and yet we pay by far more than anybody else. And NATO is wonderful, but it helps Europe more than it helps us. And why are we paying?
Trump has been pressing NATO allies to meet the target of spending 2% of their economic output on defense. Trump even threatened that he might not defend those NATO member states who refuse to do so.
And it's not that Trump doesn't like European countries necessarily, but he's just not interested necessarily in having the cozy, kind of almost incestuous relationship that particularly Western European or NATO countries have had with America since the creation of NATO. And because he's looking at the figures, he's looking at the economics of it, and it doesn't make sense to him. And that's why you hear him pushing for the European countries contributing more to NATO.
Despite putting on a show of warmth and friendship, U.S. President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Angela Merkel also remained at loggerheads over the Iran nuclear deal. Trump must decide by May 12 whether to keep waiving anti-Iran sanctions lifted under the multilateral agreement he labels the worst deal ever. Failure to do so would be a violation of the deal. Merkel's short trip came after a three-day state visit by French President Emmanuel Macron, who, like Merkel, urged Trump not to abandon the agreement. However, neither leader appeared to make significant progress convincing the former real estate mogul.
And of course, Merkel and Macron, France and Germany and France, have made it clear that they're very interested in keeping the Iran deal and keeping America from backing out of the Iran deal. But and the reason for that is that particularly French and German companies, over the past 2 years since sanctions were lifted on Iran, French and German companies have invested heavily into Iran, and they do not want to see those sanctions reimposed. Whereas the US has not invested or engaged so much with Iran economically.
Now it remains to be seen whether the strong international support for the landmark deal could force Trump to back down from leaving another international agreement.